Good morning, gang. My name is Ray. I'm with Team S.T.E.A.M. and today I'm over at the part of my property where I have my well house and my cistern, and I'm getting ready to do some digging. Good morning. I do have my work cut out for me. Very odd. I was pretty impressed. I'm gonna do what I always do on these trucks. And that just happens to be my thing, by the way. This paint job's probably 5-6 years old. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. And here he is leaving. It wasn't quite as fun as I was expecting. And that starts right about now. Now, if you watch that last non-auto body video, I think it's called "It's About to Get Hectic" is the title, then you know about what the situation is here. I've got my water main located. I've got my materials here, my water line and my fittings. Got all the fluids checked in my backhoe. It's ready to go. And I'm getting ready to dig in a water line. We tapped into the city main, and well, we've dug the hole to tap into the city main. And now I'm getting ready to go through the process of digging the water line, which I have marked out right here. And the reason I have it marked out isn't so I know where it goes. I already know where it's going to go. It's going down the middle of the driveway. But the reason I have to mark it out is because of a little bit of confusion that took place during the time period that they went ahead and dug into the ground with their hydrovac truck and found out that water main. Now, around here, the number you got to call for the call before you dig people is 811. I'm not sure if it's that way nationwide or what, but the last time I called that number was 15 or more years ago. And that's when we first came onto this property, and this property didn't even officially have an address. All it had was an approach off the highway. It didn't have a driveway, it didn't have anything. There wasn't anything up here. This property was covered with jack pines, covered with trees that were super close together, just like this place over here. Look how close together all those trees are. Definitely wildery, for sure. It's easy on the eyes, but it's also a terrible fire hazard. For one thing, I would never have my property that crowded with trees. A fire's going to race across there and take out everything one day. But anyway, that's the way this property looked when we first showed up here. And somebody, the previous owner, had used it just to store like industrial garbage. It had a huge crate that was built out of 4x8 plywood sheets. So it was 4x8 plywood for each wall of this big makeshift crate, and the crate itself was full of old industrial hoses and stuff like that, and there was a bunch of barrels up here and just shit like that. And the trees were so close together you couldn't have even taken a moped across this property without hitting something. And the only spots that were cleared out enough for anything had industrial garbage on it, and I mean a bunch of it. And between this easement here for the Black Hills Power, this is a high voltage power line that runs across here. Between this easement and all that garbage, and the fact that this was completely unimproved property, didn't have water, didn't have electricity, didn't have anything, I got their price way down. I offered them a third of what they were asking, and then I left the deal alone because I didn't think they were going to take it. It was an obscenely low amount compared to what they were asking. And about a month or two later, they got a hold of me and said, "Yeah, we'll take it." And I didn't have a pot to piss in. I just made him that offer just cause. I don't even know why I did. I didn't have any money. And I went to one of my customers and said, "Hey, you got all these projects coming up. How about you go ahead and buy this property for me, and I'll do all those projects, and then I'll do a couple of extra projects for free for you doing me the favor, and then at that point you sign the property over." Long story short, that all did happen. That all took place, and it all did happen. And so the property is, now belongs to us. But that's the only reason I even got the property. That's the only reason I even got the shop. Same customer, same deal. It took place a few years before because the shop showed up in pieces like they do when you order a shop from like Menards or any place like that. It shows up on a truck and it's all in pieces. And those pieces were at my property in Newcastle for a couple of years before we got this property. Then I decided to go ahead and put the shop up here instead of there. So a few years before I cut that deal with him on this property, I cut a similar deal with him on the shop where, "Hey, I'll paint this rig for you, and then I'll paint a couple of support trucks," because he was a water driller at the time. I said, "I'll paint your rig, but I'll also paint like a couple vac trucks for free for you doing me the favor." So he bought me that shop. Same guy. And anyway, so that's how we ended up with the property. And when we moved up here, there was nothing up here. There's no resources of any sort. So I went ahead and I called the call before you dig people, and they showed up and they cleared it and everything else. And then fast forward all these years, and the city themselves called them and had them check this area so they could come hydrovac. That's just part of the law, even when you're hydrovacing. And so they did this rectangle, this white rectangle, all the way around where they were going to work. And then I just assumed that when they called them, that the call before you dig people were going to cover the whole property. They were going to mark everything on the property, and that way I would know. And the internet people, the phone line people, did. They marked the whole property. But the Black Hills guys, and I'm not putting them down, they've got their procedure. I just didn't understand the lingo. This is on me. This isn't on anybody else. I didn't realize that it was the city that made these marks, and they made these marks because they have to. So the Black Hills people, when they showed up, would know exactly the parameters of where to check. Because underneath this power line, this high power line, there could be a buried power line, or there could be a buried gas line. These guys also have gas lines. And so yesterday when I went to start digging, I come over here and I took a closer look at this, and I see where it says there's a buried gas line and, warning. And then I see okay written over it. And again, I didn't understand that lingo. And when I see buried gas line, there is no way I'm interested in digging until I've got some answers from the horse's mouth. So I got a hold of those guys, and they didn't have the ticket number handy on the actual request. I got a hold of the city guy and said, hey, can I get that ticket number? And he sent an employee up, because those guys are prompt about everything. And the employee went over with me and explained the lingo and how it works, that they're the ones that made that mark to be checked. Black Hills showed up and said, checked in this parameter and said, we were here. This is their flag's their way of saying we were here, and this area is okay. Well, I didn't understand that. And it was important that I do understand, because I'm not going to dig where there could be a gas line or a buried high voltage line. But that being said, at that point, I realized that that's the only area they checked for arguably the most important thing on the property. And again, I'm not putting them down. Everybody's got their parameters, their legal parameters, and everybody was well within them. But since I didn't understand that, I figured that the whole property was covered and I was good to dig. Now over here, I know I am good to dig. Again, this is their easement right where the trees are cut. And so if they were going to bury a gas line, it wouldn't be over here in all these old growth trees. Some of these trees are well over 100 years old. There wouldn't be a gas line there. And so if there is going to be a gas line, it's going to be right here under their easement. And for the rest of this easement, from there clear across to that tree, I don't know for sure. And I have to know that. So I called them back. I called the call before you dig people. And I said, well, you're going to have to send, everybody out. And they said, all right, well, that'll be beginning of this next week. And that's fine. Again, everybody's got their schedule. I'm not putting anybody down here. So they're not going to show up here for a couple days, probably, and tell me for sure if I can dig here. But where I can dig is from these trees up. And that's the reason I marked it in white. That's the whole point I'm getting to here, is they needed to know what exactly I'm wanting to check. And so, and they require that you mark it in white. So that's why I marked exactly where this ditch goes in white, so they know exactly where to check. And they'll check it. They'll check the rest of the property too, but by then I'll already have the ditch dug. Because again, if they were going to run their own gas line, they would do it on their own easement. And so they're going to be checking from there to there. And in the meantime, I'm going to be digging from there on up to my cistern. And again, this is where my cistern is, and it's going to run over to here somewhere. It's an 1,100 gallon cistern. And so I'm going to take this gate out, or this post out, take that post out, take all that watering apparatus out of there, pull the whole thing back to this post, and wrap it around here and pin it back so it's out of my way. And then I'm going to come in here with my backhoe, and I'm going to carefully unearth this corner of the cistern, because it goes down, down, and up. And I'm going to unearth this corner because it's on this corner where my inlet is. I have an outlet on that corner that goes into the well house, and I have an inlet on this corner that I plugged from day one that I'm going to unplug. And it's an inch inlet, which is great because I'm running an inch pipe and fittings. And so I'm going to go ahead and uncover this right here in a big enough area that I can get down in there and work. And my backhoe bucket's pretty wide, so it's not going to be too difficult to get a ditch wide enough without making a giant pit, where I can get down there, have a look at everything, get full access, get a measurement how deep it is. I know that this pipe down here is only about 5 feet deep, maybe 6, but I think it's only about 5. And then I'm going to, once I locate that, I'm going to start digging my ditch this way from there. And as I make my way out far enough that I can just get the backhoe out of the way, keep my dirt piled up enough out of the way, then I'll come over here, get in there, finish draining my tank, empty my tank, get inside of my tank and clean it. It's not filthy, but you're supposed to coat the inside of them with a lime plaster before you put them in service. And I did that, and it's stayed clean. We've never had smelly water. We've never had moss growing. We've never had anything like that. But this is the only opportunity that I'm going to have or make to clean it. So of course I'm going to get it all drained down, pump out the rest with a little electric pump. Because once you get down to about the 3-inch level or something, you're down beneath where the outlet is, and you'll have 3 inches of water in there. I'll pump the rest of that out. Then I'll get down in there and pressure wash it, and I'll have this tank is what I'm going to be pumping some of that water into, and then from that tank I'll run another water line to my pressure washer, and that's the water source I'll use to pressure wash the inside of the tank, get everything clean, get everything mopped up out of there, and then get down in this corner down here and take that plug out. And by that point, again, I'll have my ditch here, I'll have my line here, I'll have my fittings and my shit all ready to go, and I'll go ahead and run my line through this corner of the cistern, and I'll run my line clear down into the cistern. I will run it through the cistern here, and then I'll continue to run it clear over to here, because this is where my float is going to be installed. I don't want the float installed clear at the back of the tank there, where I can't get to it or do maintenance on it. So I want the float right here, so I can easily just lift this lid, which, by the way, I did a vac truck here about a year ago, and that's the one that those guys traded the paint work on for that Tool Cat. So you remember, it's a blue and white vac truck, and I had to do all the body work all the way down the side and everything, put a fancy stripe job on it and all that stuff in exchange for that Tool Cat. Well, that vac truck had a spare lid on it that was just too far gone for them to want to reuse. So I sandblasted it and coated it inside and out, and then cut all the tabs off that tie it down to the truck, and this is where the hinge goes. And I left it as a handle, and then cut all the tabs off, and this is that's my lid. So I cut a hole in it for the water thing. And so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead that way. In the future, this hose won't be here. I'm gonna put a fiberglass patch on that, and if I ever want to check on the tank for any reason, I can just lift this lid and my float system will be right beneath it. So that's why I'm going to run my pipe through the corner of the tank all the way across the tank. I'm going to secure it to the bottom of the tank here and install my float system here, so I can open this lid and see how the float system is doing at any given time. And once all that's done and all that's in place, then I'm going to continue to dig my ditch. And by then my ditch will be dug out to here somewhere. And then I'll continue to dig my ditch, and I'll continue to run my line clear down to the tree line. And that is where I'll leave it until the call before you dig people for Black Hills comes out. Black Hills Energy comes out and verifies that they don't have anything in my way, so I can finish doing my digging there. And then I'll just run the line down the ditch, up out of the ditch, leave it in a coil above the ground. And if I have to put it up on sawhorses or something, I will, just to get its ground level up above this level, so I can just tape up the end of the pipe, keep using my water tank until I hear from them, and my water tank won't just sit and feed that hose and run out all over the place, because again, I'm going to have the end of the hose raised up above the level of the tank. And that's the way I'll leave it until those guys get a hold of me. And then when they get a hold of me, I'll finish digging the ditch over there, make their pit area over there, finish everything out nicely for them, and we'll go from there. So this morning, the whole thing I'm going to do is tear this fence out and get to digging right here on the corner. Okay, now that I've got that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get this pickup out of the way and get my backhoe fired up, get it over here, get it in position, get to digging. Okay, well, I had to, somewhere along the line, this camera went ahead and shut off, and I didn't know it, but I went ahead and moved the backhoe from there over to there, because this ditch trajectory has already been kind of set in stone. But I needed to dig this area out a little bit so I could get in here a little bit better and do what I need to do. Here's the edge of my cistern right here. Oh, hey guys. Well, I guess we'll put you back up here and we can get back to the show. So now at this point, I've got all the digging done that I need to do for the moment. What I did was, as you can see, I started there, dug this back quite a ways, and while I was at it, I ended up taking out this used to be a separate sewer that ran over to a house that was over there that's no longer there and hasn't been in for a dozen years. And so I went ahead, this has already been capped, I missed all of that. I went ahead and dug out, as you could see, as you saw in the video, the first couple scoops, I dug that sewer system out of. That was the one that I left in place. I had already separated, capped it off, and forgotten about it. I just didn't feel the need to dig it back up back in the day. And that's the one that I dug up out of there and disposed of. There's part of it right there. The rest of it is still intact. And so then I moved the backhoe over here and dug this all out so I didn't have a bank trying to collapse on me and it didn't get too claustrophobic down in there. Not that I'm a claustrophobic guy, but I didn't want to be working in that tight of an area if I didn't need to. Well, okay, gang, here it is first thing the next morning, and I got all my initial digging done. I wanted to get down to 5 feet, but 4 feet is about as deep as this machine will dig this shale. As I mentioned before, shale is the hardest thing to dig, and some of the tricks you can use are a narrower bucket, which I don't own, chiseled teeth. And the teeth that I use are on this bucket are just like a multi-purpose tooth. They're made for almost everything, and they're basically a chiseled tooth. But it doesn't matter. Shale is so hard. Once you get down past 4 feet, you need a special machine or a jackhammer attachment. That's what a lot of guys use to get down through as hard as this stuff is. I mean, this is what you're digging over and over and over again. It's basically just rock. I mean, you look at the layers, and then as you get deeper and deeper, it is just layered rock. That's all shale is, just layered rock. Down here, it gets more and more solid. And down here, look at that. I mean, that's basically rock. Right up here, it's layered rock. Right here, it's basically solid rock. And I understand it's not rock. You could actually take it out of this hole in a big sheet, if you can get it out, lay it out in the sun, and a week later, it will have crumbled. But it acts like a rock because it's being compressed so hard, and that's how rocks are made. Just compressed earth and lasts long enough and compresses it hard enough, long enough, turns it into a rock. Here's another good look at it. And as I mentioned, once you get down far enough, it just basically turns into solid rock. Right down there. And so, as deep as I'm able to get out here in the open is 4 feet. And the minimum for to basically guarantee that it's not going to freeze based on the location that we are and the weather that we get is 42 inches, and I'm 6 inches below that. So it is fine. I wanted to get to 5 feet. 4 feet does work, and that's 4 feet at its most shallow. The spot I'm standing in right now is closer to 5 feet, but the most shallow spot out here that I measured this morning is 4 feet. That's a perfectly good minimum. I'm not a minimum kind of guy, but I mean, I don't have a big choice unless I want to take a pickaxe and destroy my body for 3 days getting down that extra foot. That really doesn't matter. If the minimum is 48 inches, then, or 42 inches, that's what the minimum is 42 inches, and I'm at 48. So I'm 6 inches below the minimum. So, you know, I'm doing fine. Not thrilled with it, but it is what it is, and I can't do anything about it. But as you can see, I've got a pretty long ditch dug here. All the way up here. And so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and empty out my tank, get down in my tank, clean it, and start unwinding some of my water line. I have two 100-foot rolls. That's all. I could either buy a 300-foot roll, and all I need is 150 feet, or two 100-foot rolls and put a coupler in it. So I decided to do the two 100-foot rolls because the price per foot's the same. You don't get a price break for getting 300 foot. So I've got two 100-foot rolls. It's going to work out fine because what I'm going to do is just unroll one of them. Put the end in the bottom of my tank, get it over there as far as I need it, get everything done, get it unrolled all the way down as far as it goes, and it will go down to about here somewhere. And then I'm going to bring the end of it up out of the ground, well above the ground level, tie it off to something. I'll put like a 2x4 across here and I'll tie it off to it, and then I'll put a cap over the end, tape off the end. That way it's well above the level of the tank. And then I'll go ahead and start burying it. At that point, I'll come up here and I'll get all this carefully buried, and hopefully by the end of today, my water is installed down there and this is all carefully buried. That way tomorrow, if the last of the utilities, all the utility guys except for one have showed up. They weren't supposed to show up till Monday or Tuesday, but they all showed up on Friday and they got right on it. Of course, there's a lot of them in town anyway because they're doing a huge project right here in Upton. They are digging up 3/4 of the plumbing and water lines in the entire town and redoing them because it has the original old cast iron stuff and they're redoing all of it. So the call before you dig guys are in this area anyway. So they just showed right up. I'm only waiting on one of them and they'll be here either tomorrow or Tuesday. And once that happens, I'll finish out the end here. Once that happens, I'll go ahead and finish out across this driveway, which is again across that easement. And I'm pretty sure it's clear, but I don't want to be pretty sure. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. And they'll go ahead and dig their pit and finish everything out. And within 24 or so hours of that, I'll have water. You should check this project out. This is a pellet stove like all the other pellet stoves I have on the property. I have 3 of them in the shop, 1 of them in the greenhouse, and 1 of them in each house, and they're all identical. This is all Kittrick's work. I didn't have anything to do with this. I just let my pellet stoves get filthy. I mean, there's what my pellet stoves look like. Just filthy, and they're very utilitarian for me. I just use them for that. So here's what he did. This is all striping work. He sanded it down to bare metal, put that fancy stripe scheme on it with 0 help from me. And it's all done in heat resistant paint. So he's got a fancy stove and put on a demonstration that he's also one heck of a masker as well. So that's pretty interesting. Not my project. I didn't have a single thing to do with it, but good work, I think. Well, all right, here it is first thing the next morning. And before I quit yesterday, I went ahead and got this first 100 foot of water line laid into the ditch here, and I got it tapped into the tank the way I wanted to. And since I've got two 100-foot spools, that's going to work out really good because I'm just going to leave that there, finish out my ditch, back to where those cones are. Those guys can install their pit and get all their stuff ready, and then they can tap into the next 100-foot spool, which I will have laid out very similarly, and I'll have it coiled up right up here next to this one. And then when everybody's all done there and everything's 100% secure and kind of set in stone, then I can go ahead and lay these two over one another in the ditch, cut one of them off, and then put my coupler right there. So I have a perfect length of pipe. And I'm going to wrap it with this insulating foam, and I've got enough of those pieces to do this entire stretch. And so I'm going to wrap that insulating foam around every single foot of this pipe, and then I'm going to carefully cover it up with with loose dirt. No big chunks of rock or anything like that. I'm just gonna be taking loose dirt that won't harm it or penetrate through the pipe or kink the pipe or cause me trouble at any point. And I'm gonna initially cover it all up with a shovel. And once I get about 6 inches or so on top of that, then I'm gonna start carefully pushing this dirt back in and getting this ditch filled in here this morning. Back to about 5 foot this way from where I have the pipe sticking up out of the ditch down there. Well, okay, gang, it's been a couple days, and I had to stop digging for a couple days because I was waiting for confirmation that there's no electric buried along this easement, and they did get a hold of me today and said that there isn't. So I went ahead and came over to the area that they had hydrovac'd out the other day, and went ahead and dug them a big enough area to go ahead and work. You can see there's the water line. I have just a little shovel work to do, get that little berm away from there. But other than that, I gave them plenty of room to get in there and work. I even built a incline for them to walk down in so they don't have to drop a ladder in there. And I'd imagine in the next 48 hours or so, they'll have this tap ready to go. And then I can just go ahead and finish out this ditch here, connect that one to this one. And the reason I haven't done that already is because, well, number one, I just got confirmation today. And then I just got done digging out this area and digging it deep enough, getting it down where they can go ahead and do everything they need to do and make it good and clean and somewhat professional for them. Okay, well, the city guys just left here, and they got the tap made, got the shutoff in place, got the pit in place. Then they're going to come back with a lid and put that on there, and then they'll put the meter in once I've done everything on my end. There's a fitting clear down at the bottom that you probably can't see. It's kind of covered in the same color of dust as everything else, but that's what I'm going to be tying into. And I found my electrical that I have buried here, and now I'm going to go ahead and single it out and get my digging done from here to there. That way I can go ahead and get the foam on that pipe, get it down in there, get the other pipe connected, bring it down here, connect it to this end at the exact length it needs to be, and then begin backfilling. I'm hoping to have this backfilled maybe by this evening. I don't know. We're already well into the afternoon, so we'll see. I'm going to push hard though. Well, okay, gang. It's first thing the next morning here, and I spent the rest of my afternoon digging away, and got the entire ditch completely done with my backhoe. There's just a little bit of scraping along the bottom I need to do with the shovel, stuff that fell back in, things like that. And what I've got here is my second 100-foot roll of 1-inch water pipe, and I've got my tools that I need. I've got my fitting that I need. That clown over there in Gillette was almost cutting me off, when I was telling him what I needed. Oh yeah, oh no, I got it. Yeah, I got it. So he goes to the back and gets me all my stuff, and I get it here, and I go to use it and realize that he got me a fitting that was for 1-inch pipe, but only a 3/4 inch fitting. It makes me wonder, why in the hell would I want to install 1-inch pipe and then in one spot bottleneck it down to 3/4 inch, when what I asked for was 1 inch across the top? But I don't think he was listening to me, because he knew everything. So he went and got me the wrong fitting. Luckily, the city was more than prepared. They offered yesterday, hey, we can leave a fitting here for this pit if you want. They didn't even know that I had the wrong fitting, and neither did I. And I said, yeah, you might as well. And I picked up their fitting and looked at it. Then I went and picked up my fitting and went, well, it's a good thing, because that bozo up there in Gillette got me the wrong one, which wouldn't be a huge deal if I was running back down to my local store and going, hey, guy, get it right this time. But this is an hour away. So we're talking a 2-hour drive. We're expecting possible snow tomorrow, rain for sure. I need to have this ditch filled in today. I don't need to be taking time out of the middle of my day to run back up there because some clown didn't get the thing right. So good thing that those guys were ready. And now I've got the right fitting and everything I need here. Got my ditch all ready. Found my electrical. Here's my insulator. So I'm going to go ahead, get this hooked up, get it strung up here a little ways, get some of this looser dirt, fill in around it. And after I put this insulator on it, get up there to that little dog leg right there. I didn't have any choice. I couldn't do a completely straight ditch because I had to go off to the side to finish it out with my backhoe. So I got a little bit of a dog leg in it, but that's no big deal. It's not like I'm laying straight sewer pipe. And so I'll get that all dug out with my shovel the rest of the way and keep going until I meet up with my other pipe. and then get the coupler on it. I made sure it was the right size after that last little thing, and then get my insulator on all of it, get it all covered up, and get it all backfilled here today. And I'm going to get all of this backfilled here today. And then if I have any time left in the day, I'm going to go ahead and install a different float in my cistern, because the one that I installed was called a high flow, and it was barely flow at all. It was like a freaking eyedropper. So I went and got one that actually is a high flow, and went ahead and got it here. So now that's another thing I need to do this afternoon, is get down in the tank, drain the tank again, get back down in the tank, and install a float that actually works, and then we should be able to turn the water on and be good to go. Well, okay, at this point I've got my line all hooked up, and then I've also got it covered with that insulating foam, which is not required. It's just that, as I mentioned, the minimum depth is 42 inches in this part of the world, and I've gone 48 minimum, 48 and deeper, but the most shallow it is anywhere that I've measured has been 48, so 6 inches below the minimum. But then I went ahead and bedded it in with gravel, and I'm going to put a little more gravel over the top of it, and I put that insulating foam just in case. I mean, if we have some weird Arctic blast that puts us at 40 below for a week straight or something, I can sit there and not worry so much about it. And I've gone all the way up and around, and I've got it laid up next to the other line, but I don't have the lines hooked up yet. I want to go ahead and get this backfilling done back here. Probably most of the way. I want to get this backfilling done to right about here. You can see I'm about 10 foot back there from where this particular line ends, and that's what I want to do here, about 10 foot back from where this line ends. Then I'm going to get down in there and connect the lines, put insulating foam over them, and then go ahead and backfill over that. And at that point I can go ahead and give the city a call, and they'll come put a meter on and turn the water on after I get my float installed. Either they'll turn the water on or they'll leave the tool so I can when I'm ready. Okay, now at this point I've got more than half of the ditch filled in, and as you can see, that's not anywhere near level or anything like that. I was just pouring dirt on top of it, and when I'm all done here, when I get everything the big dirt piles that were there are now moved over. It's filled the ditch. We've gone a little bit over, and you can always expect that when you're doing dirt work. It seems like for every shovel full you pull out of the ground, you only put about half of it back. You end up with a big pile of spare dirt. So that's just going to get back drug and leveled out into the entire area. And I still have this yet to do. And all I've been doing is using used sand, because I've got a big pile of used sand that I've been using for years. And that particular pile is what I'm using. I'm just getting a big bucket full of it with the forklift here, or with the backhoe here. And then I'm coming in here, filling in over the top of my pipe with sand. And I'm just putting shovelful after shovelful of sand in on top of this pipe until it goes underneath it and around it and about 6 inches on top of it. And then once that's done, then I just use the backhoe here to go ahead and backfill. And the way I'll do this is I'll just use the hoe part of it and just reach in there and just scoop some dirt in carefully until I can't reach this anymore. And then I'll go ahead and do the same with that pile right there, except for I'll be using the front bucket to just hit it from the side, come back over here, and dump it. And it's not a super fast process, because I'm trying to be careful about it. I don't want to put any big rocks or huge dirt clumps or cause any damage to the pipe. It'd be a total shame to get this thing all filled in and then find out that I don't have water flow and you can't even begin to guess where. I mean, that's a nightmare waiting to happen. So I'm being careful when I'm filling this back in. And by the end of today, I should have all these dirt piles gone, and I should have this all filled in and backfilled around their pit, and maybe even have the water on. Well, all right, it's mid-afternoon, and everything was going along great, and I'm in the final stage of getting my backfilling done, and all of a sudden I reached down to start the backhoe. So you see what happened was, here's the ignition down here, and on the day that I bought this machine, I got in here and got a little bit too rowdy and hit this with my leg and bent the key off almost 90 degrees. Then later on, the next day when I went to straighten the key, it broke right off and left the rest of the key in there. So then I used a straight slot screwdriver to just barely hook in what was left of the edge here and turn the machine on and off from there on out. The problem with that was eventually, just today, I shoved that screwdriver in there a little bit too far and pushed the key past the tumblers, the broken key in, past the tumblers, and then it wouldn't turn at all. And then I can't do anything with it. So it took me a while, but I got the tools out and I got it pulled apart enough that I could get the ignition down out of it. And I pulled the ignition out of it and I worked the broken key out. And as you can see, there's the broken key. And I went down to the hardware store, and not only did they not have a blank that would work that was exact enough, but they can't put that broken key in their little miniature vise to be able to make a key for me. And even if they could, the blank that they have, the only one they had that was close enough, wasn't going to work. But they just gave it to me and they said, if I can make it work, then that'll be great. And so this channel that's on the backside right there is a bit too narrow. It needs to be about twice that wide. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this key and my key in the vise here and strap them in there together and see if I can't use a file or some of my tools and make a copy of it, and then also make that groove down the back side, the one I showed you that's too narrow, make it wide enough. It needs to be twice as wide. It needs to be this wide. So I got my work cut out for me. I'm going to put these in the vise here together, see if I can't make my own key. Okay, I already went ahead and recut that groove that I was talking about, and I got it right because I've actually slid the key into the ignition, and it went all the way in. Of course, it didn't turn it, but because the tumblers aren't gonna slide into grooves that aren't there, but the groove itself allowed it to go into the ignition. So I know I got it right. Now I've got these vice grip together here. As you can see, I just have to follow that pattern, and in theory it should work. Well, I got her damn near identical. We'll just have to slip it in there and see. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing glasses all of a sudden, well, it's because your eyes, when you do PRK surgery, take 3 to 6 months to heal. And I'm 51 years old, so, and I didn't know this at the time, but that doesn't make your eyes perfect at any age. It makes your eyes 20/20 for being a 51-year-old. You still have the inner lens issues that you get as you get older, where the inner lens doesn't want to flex as much as it should, so it's harder to see close up and then far away. It's harder for it to move like it should. So I still, even though I'm nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other, I still have trouble seeing things when they're really up close like that. So, and I probably always will. All right, we'll see. Look at that. We have a working key, ladies and gentlemen. Now I need to go reinstall this ignition and get my ass back to work. Well, all right, gang. I did a bunch of backfilling yesterday afternoon after I fixed that key. Then I did the rest of the backfilling this morning and back dragging this morning. As you can see, this is where that ditch was. This is where that big pit was. That's my cistern where I tied into it. And this is where that ditch ran all the way down the driveway. And then down there where you can see that cone, that's where they put that pit. And then the small cone just behind it is the actual water turn on. That's how much spare dirt I had. Jobs like this, it's a funny thing. You always have just a bunch of dirt left over. Backhoe ran as long as I needed it to. It did everything I needed it to, and it's just now starting to rain. I don't know if there's any on the lens or not, but we're expecting basically 2 or 3 days of rain starting right now. It has just now started to rain, and we've just now got all the tools picked up. So for like the 15 millionth time in my life, I get done with my outdoor work just before the storms hit. Well, now that all my dirt work's done for the year and the fall rains have started, I better get my ass inside and find something else to do, which shouldn't be too tough to do, I don't think. Hey, if you like this video, you should take the time to hit the like button. It's gonna help me grow this channel. If you don't like it, definitely don't. And you wanna see more videos like this? Well, we'll be doing a lot more dirt work next year. You wanna see more videos like gardening or domestic auto body or truck auto body or art or any of the many things we do around here? You might as well hit the subscribe button while you're at it, because you know, we always got something going on. We'll see you guys around.